We found a DVD vending machine online for very little money, which should have been our first clue. When we got it home, it would power on just fine, but then immediately stall out on a startup screen, like it was thinking very hard about different ways it could annoy us. So we did what responsible people do. We asked the YouTube comments section for advice, and surprisingly, 3 fairly consistent suggestions bubbled up to the top. We're pretty confident the hard drive itself is okay, so we set aside all the just replace everything suggestions and focused on the idea that this might simply be a configuration problem. The first suggestion was to enable UEFI boot. Now, what's UEFI? It stands for Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, beep, bop, boop, beep, which is the modern replacement for old school BIOS. It's a software layer that sits between the hardware and the operating system. It makes it boot faster, you can have big hard drives, and blah, 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 blah. So naturally, we turned it on, and we hoped this machine would finally agree to move forward. And let's find out if we were right. Okay. Let's do it. Fail. Okay, option 2 was to dive into the grub menu, which previously showed us a whole buffet of choices, but the only option that ever worked was the memory tester, which is comforting but also not helpful. I just want to rent a DVD, okay? To even get these options to appear, we had to manually edit a file, which already tells you how this is going. This footage represents what happened when we selected recovery mode, and I want to be clear. Every other option behaved basically the same way, so if you're wondering, can you just get to the point and show us what happened? Well, yes, I can. This. It just sits there, forever. No progress, no feedback, not even a satisfying kernel panic. Just a rude little hang on a second followed by an infinite silence that makes you wonder if this machine is still thinking or if it's dipped out on you. Great. The third option was the most popular one mentioned in the comments. Switch the SATA configuration from IDE to AHCI. At a very high level, IDE and AHCI are just 2 different ways your computer talks to a SATA hard drive, but they come from very different eras. Eras? IDE mode is basically your computer saying, hey, let's all pretend it's 1999 and nothing has changed. It exists so older operating systems don't panic when they see modern hardware. It's slower, simpler, and deeply committed to nostalgia. AHCI, on the other hand, is the drive saying, hey, I am capable of more. It enables features like faster data transfers, hot swaps, smarter command handling. Unfortunately, if your operating system was not expecting AHCI, turning it on is like switching to a new language mid-sentence. The hardware is thrilled, but the OS is offended, and nothing boots. You know what? We're having the exact opposite problem, where maybe IDE is the one causing the issue. So, here goes nothing. Let's find out where we're going from here. Okay. Let's see what's going on. Oh, wait. This is different. Look at this. There's some okays. We're continuing. Oh my God. What? We're checking the hard drive now? Ooh, there's going to be a bar graph. Oh, I love bar graphs. There it goes. I've sped this up, just FYI. I don't know why I'm whispering. Okay, it's almost done. And come on, what are you doing? You're just sitting there. Keep going. Hello? It failed, but we got more okays. Is it going to make a difference? Let's see. More okays. Okay. Oh, video went out. Woo! This is a peach. What color is this? Woo! This is all new. Rotate. Here we go. Don't call that number. You know what? I'll blur it out. I wonder who this guy is. It's just sitting here on this maintenance mode screen. I am wondering if this is as far as we were gonna get. Come on. Is this it? No. I see film strips in the background. System initializing. Come on, R2-D2. We did it! Look at it. What are those boxes? Oh, okay, good. Let's start touching the screen. This is exciting. Okay, so that was our issue. We needed to be in AHCI, so everybody write that down. Okay, membership center. put your credit card in. And, no, well, let's not do that. Return, put in return DVD. Well, I don't have one out here, so it's cool animation, though. I hit exit. Are we going to exit? Do we have to wait? Okay, there we go. Let's click. I'm going to buy or am I going to rent? Let's buy. Okay, it's thinking. There's a bunch of movies. Oh, look, Avatar's out now. Let's see if this one loading. It's going to play the... Is it going to play the preview in this little box? Let's scroll through here. A bunch of stuff. Oh, look at that. Oh, just ignore the bug zapper that you're going to hear in the background. Just FYI, in case you were wondering. Hey, what planet's that?
Pandora. A world of wonder and mystery. Incredible danger and strange beauty.
I backed up the camera so that you can get a better look of the garage. We're going to try pickup, and let's swipe a card. No, it's going to just use your credit card. I don't have that. Let's do pickup and type in a code. I don't have a code either. Maybe this is it. No, that's not it. All right, back. Next, this guy. Membership card registration. Don't need to deal with it because I don't got one. Let's try what happens when we rent. Looks a lot like the buy menu. Everything's in here. Interesting choices. Man, this is like so long ago. Crazy times. There's the Avatar again. It's on the discount menu. Ah, this is the Blu-ray that was in the machine. So I guess it is in here. They have one Blu-ray. What the heck? Still $25. I guess they're going to play a little trailer, which I don't want to see. Okay, that's cool. Let's go back. Look, you can buy or rent. Why did I have to pick buy at that other menu? It's kind of silly. Are you sure? Blah, blah, blah. This is a Blu-ray. It doesn't fit in your... Okay, well, that's a good warning. All right, so here we go. Let's see what it's going to... Well, there's no coupon code that I know. Let's just try one. Those aren't clickable. Coupon service. Yeah, by the way, this thing's not plugged into the internet at all. So I don't think anything's going to work if you try to proceed further. Let's check out. Again, it wants the credit card. It's okay. And we'll exit. Okay. I think we've hit everything. Oh, those are clickable? Crazy. I was just going to point something out here. Let's kind of need everything clickable. How about these things? No? Not clickable? Nah. All right. Hey, guys. What do you think? I gave it a thumbs up. Let's fix this machine up. Let's make things presentable. Remember in the last episode when Jonathan Boring calmly picked the circular locks like it was a casual hobby? Well, our replacement front lock has finally arrived. So let's take it out to the garage and see if we can install it without turning this into a personality test. The inner part of the old lock, it's held in by what people will argue is either an E-clip or a C-clip, and I think it looks like a C. What do you think? So that's what we're calling it today. And once this clip comes off, the internal portion of the lock slides right out, leaving behind just the outer frame. Looking at the new lock, we could try to swap just the internal pieces, but that feels like tempting fate. I'd rather replace the entire assembly than discover later that something doesn't quite fit and now we've invented a brand new problem. We grab a trusty nut driver and remove the top and bottom bolts holding the old lock in place. It comes out with only minor resistance, mostly from gravity trying to steal the hardware and hide it somewhere permanent. I'm not sure what we'll do with the old lock afterward. Apparently these can be rekeyed, but for now, it's just going to go in the box where all my side quests go to wait. And here's the new lock again, fully assembled and already holding its own internal mechanism in place with its own clip, which I appreciate. I remove the nuts so we can slide it into the door where it will ideally remain for the rest of its natural life. The fun thing about these locks is that they screw into a receiver onto the opposite end of the door, and once they're in, there's no easy way to remove them without dramatically changing your approach to the day. We finish the swap and we demonstrate how the lock works. On the back side of the door is the receiver and the lock screws into it from behind. Even if you somehow remove the bolts from the receiver, the lock itself, it's not going anywhere. It's either a brilliant design or an extremely hostile one. It's hard to say. To operate it, you close the door until the threaded end meets the receiver. You rotate the entire face of the lock until it stops turning. You push it inward, you hear a click, and congratulations. You are now locked out of your own machine. So now seems like the perfect time to see if the key we were actually given unlocks it. because if it doesn't, this video is about to end abruptly. And it opens. Mission accomplished on the front lock. Onward and backward to the back lock. We reach into the toolbox and grab another trusty nut driver because tightening anything by hand at this point feels irresponsible. Now, you might assume the same quality lock used on the front of the machine would also be guarding the back. That would make sense, but that is not what happened. Instead, the back was secured with what appears to be the least expensive circular lock available. It's like the Walmart of locks. So, rather than replacing it with something equally trashy, we opted for one of our keyless knob style locks, effectively turning the back of the machine into something you could open while running on minimal brain energy reserves. You know, where's the key? Who cares? Because you don't need one. The front remains classy and the back is the back. It's a nice reminder that not everything needs to be impressive. This lock connects to two long metal rods that run up and down into the cabinet, blocking the door from opening. I'm fairly certain these are also the cheapest rods available, which I appreciate for consistency. This is very much file cabinet level security. The old lock comes out without putting up any resistance at all. There's nothing actually wrong with it, although it does look like it may have been dragged across something rough at some point while the machine was laying on its back. Into the side quest box it goes, to be dealt with at a later date. And I think we're done. Look at this. We can lock it. Yeah. Calm down. Now that the machine is semi-working and we've got reasonable access to the inside thanks to our cool new front lock, it's time to address the elephant in the room. And no, I am not talking about the DeLorean that's been low-key hanging out nearby this whole time. I'm talking about the leg levelers on this beast. They're solid, they're rubber, and they make moving this thing without an appliance dolly basically impossible. So naturally, we're removing them. Replacing leg levelers is one of my favorite parts of any restoration because it's easy, satisfying, and looks amazing in fast forward. But hold on to your virtual hats because we're not putting in new levelers. No, we're going full send with casters again. Except this time we know the machine can handle it without turning into a physics lesson. We did make an extremely educational mistake on our Star Trek arcade restoration. You know, the one where the casters ripped off while rolling the machine into the house? That will not happen again, probably. I have learned, allegedly. And why are we doing all this? Because, like every project I own, the end goal is to get it out of the garage and into the house where it can be enjoyed and also quietly become a large object you bump into while sprinting outside to catch the ice cream truck. This brings us to my attempt to lift the machine back up. I have all the wheel locks engaged so the machine won't roll away from me. And does that work? No. Do I look upset? I'm not upset. I'm not even disappointed. I'm just standing here watching a DVD vending machine refuse to cooperate, and honestly, that's on brand. Now, I have an assortment of leftover wood for my arcade restoration hobby because apparently I collect plywood the way other people collect refrigerator magnets while on vacation. So naturally, I look at this pile and I think, yeah, I can engineer a solution. Specifically, a structure that will let me lift this DVDNow vending machine without it rolling away from me or falling on me. Basically any scenario where at the end I'm yelling, I've fallen and I can't get up. But you know the outcome I'm trying to avoid. Somebody watching this video at 2 a.m. with the word fail in giant text slapped across it like it's a Darwin documentary. Yeah. The plan is to build a little stoop thing, some kind of ledge with a tiny lip, so the machine can rest on it while I coax it upright again. This long piece of plywood came from when I had to recreate a back door on arcade cabinets. You know, people love losing the back door to arcade games. Some folks think it's because leaving it open keeps it cooler. Personally, I think somebody removed it, leaned it against the garage wall, saw it a week later, and then went, oh cool, trash. The 4x4 wood's left over from building a base for my greenhouse. And it's also handy for propping up pinball machines while attaching legs. There are no pinball machines involved today, which means this wood is being reassigned to a new and exciting job, keeping me alive. Now, you might be wondering, did you plan this? Did you research this? Did you watch a video called How to Safely Lift a 500-pound metal box without becoming the opening scene of a warning label? No. I'm doing what we call freeballing it, free-handing it. I don't know what the phrase is, and I'm not going to Google it. The point is, I'm making it up as I go. And honestly, it's looking promising. Like, how many screws do I need to hold this together? Enough. That's the number. How many is enough, specifically? Well, according to late 1970s television, 8 is enough. Thank you, I'm here all week. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. We've got it ready. We've got it propped up a little bit. Let's see what happens when we add it. It's not rolling away. The lip is holding. Am I holding? I'm like, these bricks are in the way. Okay, I didn't think of that. But it's looking good.
This is good.
Almost there. You're gonna have to take it for a little ride. Then we did it! Yeah! Awesome! This is perfect. All right, we'll set it over here, and then I'm gonna think about putting it inside, but much later tonight, not now. Okay, it's night now, which means it's time to wheel this big red monster into the house like we're sneaking a refrigerator into a museum. And no, we are not displacing any arcade games to make room for this majestic monument to DVD distribution. This thing is going to live inside as the 1985 video vendor's wingman, because apparently my living room is now an exhibit called, "Hey, remember physical media?" People are going to walk in, see the two of them standing there like bouncers at a club nobody asked for, and they'll have one of three thoughts. Number one, oh wow, we should probably stage an intervention. Number two, does anyone have the hotline number for that hoarding show? And number three, what magical retro place have I entered, and can I live here now? Those will be the only options. And hey, as I'm rolling this thing across thresholds and trying to keep it from doing anything dramatic on the deck, I'm thinking about the next steps, like can we actually get it to vend a DVD? Can we return the DVD after? Do I need to order more memory for the machine? And yes, we do need to do that. That's already happening. It's done. The order is placed. The money is gone. But the most important question, the one that actually matters is, can I play Doom on this? So, if you hit the subscribe button, you're going to find out whether DVD Doom is possible. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll get alerted the moment I discover the answer on whatever device you're watching this on right now. If you liked the video, please drop us a like. We like likes. Likes are good. They fuel the madness. Thanks for joining us for part 2. And get ready for part 3. It's going to be Doom-tastic. Spoiler alert.